at least here in Arizona, locally in Phoenix, and well, rather Glendale, Arizona Coyotes are not leaving the state.
Or even Glendale.
Right.
So, I mean, that has been a big surprise to a lot of people.
I know.
Do you want me to try to dial this in while you kind of tell what we're about to do?
So what we're going to do is we're going to speak with legal expert Monica Lindstrom. You have seen her on the show many times, both on Fox 10 and on Fox News now. She joined us for extensive Jodi Arias coverage. And we'll be giving her a call right now. We're going to be actually FaceTiming her. This is my first time using our FaceTime functions. I'm very excited to be trying this out, and she'll be chatting with us about basically what transpired in that meeting. I know you guys tuned in for the first hour or so of that meeting. That meeting started at 9 o'clock in Glendale, and we did cut out of it so that we could sit down and chat with Lonnie Love. Steve Kraft was also there at the meeting. I know he's covering this story for the newscast today, so perhaps we'll talk to him later this afternoon as well. But what we're going to do right now is speak with Monica Lindstrom, who is one of our legal experts here at Fox 10, and she'll be chatting with us again any second now about the latest developments between the City of Glendale and the Arizona Coyotes.
So this is sort of an impromptu tech talk with Jeff and there she is. Hello, Monica. All right.
I don't hear her. 1 second.
Well, you need to bring up her.
Oh, but I should hear her too.
No. We need to have done the video. Can you hear us, Monica?
Yes.
Okay, now we can hear her too. That makes sense. Hi, Monica. How are you?
Hi. Do I need to push my glasses up? Woo! It's bright.
Well, I'm so glad that you could take the time out to chat with us here on News Now. So you were actually in that meeting that took place this morning, right? So can you give the viewers an update? We were streaming it live here on News Now, but obviously some viewers were not tuning in then. So can you give us a brief overview of what transpired this morning?
Yeah, actually the meeting got done not too long ago. And what happened was the Glendale City Council was deciding whether to approve the amendment to the agreement with the Coyotes and deciding whether they were going to agree on the settlement or not. And when we first got into the meeting, almost immediately the City Council went into an executive session. And what that means is they went back behind closed doors and they met with their attorney to decide what they were going to do or to ask any legal questions. And they're allowed to do that under Arizona's open meeting laws. They're allowed to go ahead and go into a private session, but they absolutely cannot take a vote. They have to do that in public.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of public interest in this case overall. So I wasn't able to see the entire the conference there. Did they have a lot of public comments here, or was it just strictly sitting down and reading the deal as it was already done?
You know what? That's a great question, because at the June 10th meeting where they voted to rescind the agreement with the Coyotes, the atmosphere was it was just very mean. People were upset. They were chomping at the bit to talk. This one, everybody was very calm. There were no public comments at the beginning. In fact, there was only one public comment later on. And then during the actual meeting where the city council was voting, only 3 of the council members decided to explain their yes vote. Now, granted, it was a unanimous vote. They all agreed to approve the settlement and get rid of the lawsuit and approve the amendment to the agreement, but only 3 of them actually said why they felt the way that they did.
Interesting. So, again, I've seen a lot of this coming in just sort of bits and pieces. Is this really a good deal? Has progress been made? Or has this just been a whole lot of posturing by everybody to, kind of try to minimize things on all sides?
This actually, I think, was a very good agreement considering the alternative. The alternative would have had us in the courtroom on July 31st, starting the hearing about whose case is stronger. And that would have cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot, because they each had a team of lawyers. And the hearing was scheduled to go at least 3 days, if not longer. So it was a good deal in that sense. Now, I think it's a fantastic deal for the Coyotes because they get the certainty of being in the same place for 2 years. And Anthony LeBlanc even came out and he mentioned that was a real important point to them, because they had trouble even signing players because there was no certainty about where the Coyotes were going to be the next few years. So this is very beneficial to the Coyotes for giving it certainty as to what's going to happen the next couple seasons. Now, it's also a good deal because the Coyotes are getting revenue that originally was supposed to go to the city. Now, is it a lot of revenue? I don't know, because at the June 10th meeting, the city told us that it was making zero money on this contract and it was losing a lot of money, $15 million a year, right? The Coyotes got up and they said, no, you're making this revenue, this revenue, this revenue, this revenue. So we never really got the real numbers. But what we know for certain is because of this deal, the Coyotes will now get all kinds of revenue, and it doesn't go to the city. They'll get ticket surcharges, parking, concessions, food and beverage, revenue from naming rights, from advertising. So overall, it sounds like a great deal for the Coyotes.
Mm-hmm. Monica, we're getting some questions from our chat room as well, so I want to ask you a couple of them. Rachel's saying this amendment only means that the Coyotes will stay in Glendale for 2 more years, right?
Yes, this amendment, 2 years. The termination date is June 30th, 2017. However, that doesn't mean that the parties won't come together and come up with another contract, because after the meeting, when the mayor and Anthony LeBlanc, who's one of the owners of the Coyotes, when they were speaking outside of the council room, they were very, very friendly. They made a lot of comments that now they're going to work together. It's a team thing. In fact, during the meeting, Vice Mayor Hughes said that hockey is here to stay in Glendale. And that really surprised a lot of us, because that right there was our first showing that the two sides might be really willing to continue to talk about keeping the Coyotes there. And in fact, LeBlanc said that if anybody says that this was all because the Coyotes wanted to move and they wanted a new stadium or a contract with somebody else, he goes, that is flat out not true. And if somebody says that, they don't know what they're talking about.
So this isn't really a legal question, but I do want your take on it. Do you think because of all this media attention and legal attention that more people are going to go to Coyotes games in the upcoming season? They'll be more interested in it?
It's quite possible, because people, when they learn about a controversy like this, I think they become a little bit more invested in it. This had something to do with Phoenix, with Glendale. This was part of our sports world. And so those people that might not have gone to a game before, maybe they want to go now to see what's really going on, what the atmosphere is like, what the stadium is like, what the businesses are around this. Because I think out of everything, regular people felt bad for the businesses that were around the arena, because if the Coyotes leave and there's not another anchor tenant for a while, all those businesses, restaurants, stores, hotels, gas stations, all of that right around there, they're all going to go under. And I don't think the normal person out there, the regular person, meaning not a politician, not a lawyer, maybe, they don't want to see that go under. And so they might be more willing to come out and support the community.
Right. I mean, it still doesn't prevent the fact that Glendale's a little far for some hockey fans.
You know, it's interesting because after the meeting, Anthony LeBlanc brought that up. He said something like, when fans use the distance, like they don't want to drive that far, he goes, that's really an excuse. And what he meant by that, because at first I thought he meant that we were making up excuses, he explained that really he needs to put a better product on the ice, that the Coyotes need to be better so that the fans don't have that excuse. They want to come. They're willing to drive the extra mile or whatever to get to the game. I thought that was a very good point that he made.
That is a good point.
Yeah, I don't hear people, when the Cards have been winning, it's a day-long trip for me to get all the way out to the Card Stadium, but I don't hear people complaining about that, because when they're winning, people are willing to make the trip for the experience.
Absolutely, that is 100% true.
So Billy Cruz in our chat room said it sounds like they knew they'd lose in court and decided that fulfilling the original contract was the cheaper option. Do you think this was a Mexican standoff and they decided to back off because they realized they had a bad position?
That's a really good point, because usually when the parties settle, people who aren't involved in the dispute, they think, oh, somebody must have caved. Somebody must have realized they had a bad case. And normally I would say, yeah, that happens a lot, but the majority of cases do settle. And it was appropriate in this case because of all the money that both sides were going to lose. And both sides mentioned that this was really a business decision. It didn't have anything to do with hockey, right? And it didn't have anything to do with their relationship. It was all about business. So they were looking at the numbers, and it made more sense for them to settle than to waste taxpayer money on a lawsuit. And the Coyotes, the longer they would have pushed this out, if they would have continued the lawsuit, the less certainty they would have had in order to bring new players and new personnel to the team. Now,
what's that? Oh, continue.
I've been asked who had the weaker position, and still I believe that Glendale had the weaker position because we never heard what the substantial evidence was about Craig Tyndall, who was the city attorney negotiating the contract. We didn't really see a whole lot of evidence there, so I would say the Coyotes had the stronger case. And as a side note, guys, Craig Tyndall, he can't work for the Coyotes anymore. That was part of the deal. He was counsel for the Coyotes. He can no longer work for them under this agreement.
Oh, I missed that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a question from our viewer, Rachel. So if the mayor is satisfied with the income coming in the next couple of years, would there be a chance that they could extend the contract?
Oh, absolutely, Rachel. That's a good question. Right now, the city will not be getting any income at all from this contract. I mean, they might get a little bit here and there for some exceptions, maybe a little bit with the naming rights, but they pretty much gave up all their revenue so that they're paying only $6.5 million a year instead of 15. But that being said, at the end of the 2 years, the parties can always create a new contract where there's a redistribution of the future revenue. So that's a great question.
All right. I don't think we have any other questions from the chat room. Any other observations or thoughts watching this? Did this play out like you expected? Are you surprised?
I am surprised that the settlement came this fast. I figured that a settlement would come eventually because in the legal world, things settle. They just settle because it's usually the smartest thing to do. But I was really surprised it came this fast. And I'd like to give both sides kudos for that because they could have gone on with the hearing. They could have spent the money, the time, the resources for both of their clients, but they didn't. They realized that it was more important to the taxpayers and to the team to get this resolved mutually beneficially than to continue to fight. And that tells me right there that everybody on both sides lowered their ego and put their thinking caps on and realized this was really the best alternative. And if anybody wants to know more details about that, I wrote an article over on KTIR.com about the good and the bad. And that way people can see that and they can make their own mind up if they thought it was a good settlement or not.
All right, Monica, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us here on News Now.
And being not only our first FaceTime guest with Samia here, but also being so stylish about it. You got the glasses, I mean, you're looking fantastic. So
it is so bright out here. If I did this, I'd be like this.
No, you're looking good. So it's one of the things, this is kind of a new thing for us, but it's so versatile that we can, wherever someone happens to be, they can Skype in. We can take them right on the air. So.
I'm sweating for you right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, then sweating for News Now.
Thank you so much. And hopefully we see you again here in studio soon as well. We love having you.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
Bye,
Monica.
guys.
Monica.